Hey, I don't know about you, but I think one of the biggest lies I've ever heard, I've ever been told, or that people threw at me was, hey, be yourself. March to the beat of your own drum and stuff like that. People just like really encouraging you to say, you really got to be yourself and everything. And I've got to tell you, I don't know about you, but I think it's the biggest lie I've ever heard because the last thing I think most people want you to be is yourself. And I think there's a number of reasons for that. But let me go back to my story real quick and let me know if you can relate to this. So when I was a kid, I graduated high school, and a few weeks after I graduated, I went off to Army basic training, a place called Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, which was the state was called Missouri, and the fort was called Fort Lost in the Woods. So I went off to my basic training, and it was a program where I would get into ROTC. So I went that summer or that fall, I went into college. I went away to college. And 2 years later, at the ripe old age of 19, I was a second lieutenant in the U.S. Army Reserves. And you know what the really weird part about that is? I had no business being in the military. And I go back and I think, well, why did I sign up for the Army? Why did I even do that? And if you're from a dysfunctional family, if you're one of those lost children who wants so badly to be seen and heard and recognized in your family, the answer becomes quite obvious. I did it because I wanted my dad to take notice of me. And I thought, he was a retired lieutenant colonel. At the time, he was actually still active in the reserves, but he was a lieutenant colonel. And I think there's a part of me that at the time, I don't think it would have come to my conscious mind, but I thought I was doing it because I thought, hey, if I joined the Army and if I went on an officer track, my dad would be so proud of me. He would be so, we'd have something to bond about. We'd have something to talk about, and have something in common. So after I went to basic training, I went off to college, became a second lieutenant. And I don't know if it was then or shortly thereafter, I realized what a horrible mistake I made. I'm now part of the military, and I was the last person in the world who should have been an officer in the United States military. I was scared of my own shadow, let alone trying to lead other people to do things and get things done like that. So, thankfully, I was in the Army Reserves. I didn't see any, combat. I wasn't in charge of people. A lot of it was administrative. So thank God for that, and thank God for all those people who may have been under my command. That would have been a joke. But like I said, if you're a person who grew up, or even now, you're still you just want so badly to have the attention of people in your family or a significant other, you may have found you've done things like that. And for me, it was a 10-year mistake. I had signed up for 10 years. So imagine that. And then I went off to school. I went to the same college, the same university my brother went to, right? Again, what kind of choice was that? I didn't even think it was possible to go and do what I wanted to do or go where I wanted to go. You just, it was kind of lockstep. Okay, I'm going to go off the same school my brother went to, and I'm going to get a degree in business administration. And if you know me even a little bit, that's probably one of the dumbest things I could have ever done. But again, it didn't even enter my mind to say, oh, hey, what kind of major do I want? What kind of school do I want to go to? What do I want to study? What do I want to be? What do I want to become? Because those weren't even options. It was not an option to be who I really wanted to be or who I thought I was, what excited me. And you may find yourself in that same position. You may be even right now doing something, or you are somewhere where you don't want to be, and you don't want to be doing it, and you're miserable and you hate it because inside there's something that's scratching and clawing to get out. That person that everyone tells you that they think you should be, well, they're right in the sense that that's the person you want to be. That's the person you want to bring out and bring to the forefront. But again, if you're anything like me, you're scared to death because stepping out is scary. Stepping out and doing your own thing is scary because people point fingers at you. They'll even get angry at you. And I think a lot of times I use the metaphor of crabs in a bucket. If you've ever heard that one, where you're a crab in a bucket of other crabs, and as soon as you try to get out, the other crabs pull you back down because they don't want you to get out. They don't want you to achieve and be something different and special and unique because it shows them that it can be done. It takes away their excuses, and they hate it. and they'll do anything they can to bring you down. And if you, again, grew up in a dysfunctional family, if you're codependent, it's very hard for us to really grab onto the idea of who we are, our true identity, because we're so busy trying to please other people. We're so busy trying to be noticed, and we'll do almost anything to get that attention, even following everybody else, being a sheeple, right? Just doing what everyone else is doing. I remember back in high school, and if you've gone in, I went to a public high school, and if you've gone to a high school, I'm sure at that age, they're the same everywhere as there's the different cliques, right? There's the burnouts, there's the the eggheads, really smart people. There's the band weirdos. There's, everyone has their group and their clique. And people want to be part of a group because it's easier. You identify with the group. You do what everyone else is doing. It's so much easier. And as I've said before, St. Francis of Sales tells us, he says, be who you are and be that well. God says, I have created you. I have been thinking about you for all eternity, and now in this time in history, I'm plunking this guy or this girl down on earth. And I've got something special for you. There's something I want you to do. There's something I want you to be, and I want you to be that person. So from a spiritual side, it's like you're getting cheered on by, God the Father. I mean, think about that. Even so, God has existed forever, right? Like, bend your mind around that. There's no beginning, there's no end. He's been thinking about you for that entire eternity, every step of the way. And then in this time in history, if you're listening to this or watching this, you're here in history right now for some reason. And you may be getting up every day saying, what am I doing here? I'm miserable, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, I'm discouraged, and I'll bet you dollars to donuts it's because you're probably doing what you think you should be doing. And again, I don't want to get into all the details of like, hey, you have to do this, you have to, I get all that. I've been there and done that. What I'm saying is to dig down deep and find that spark, find out that light that God planted in you, and what you can start doing about it. I'm not saying stop doing everything you're doing. Don't, you've got to do your duty. You've got responsibilities. Understood. But maybe go back, and if you're not really sure what that thing is go back and start thinking about the things that brought you some happiness, or that you were excited about, or that you were curious about. For me, it was, in many ways, it was writing. I remember as a kid going into the dining room. My mom had a little manual typewriter, and I would go in there and just, finger peck on the keys, type and everything. I remember getting a book one time and opening the book up and literally writing word for word and punctuation mark after punctuation mark. And I got to be a better typist. I got to be a better writer because I wanted to write. I wanted to write stories. I thought there was something inside of me that says, I want to make stories. And the other thing is and maybe it's part of the upbringing. Again, if you're in a family that just, I don't want to say neglects you, but I mean, they don't give you attention. They don't pay you, never mind. They really don't cheer or celebrate you in any way, shape, or form. And for me, there's a sense of humor that kicked in. I wanted to be funny and do funny things. And I remember in 5th grade, I had to give a speech. And years ago, there was a shampoo called Gee, Your Hair Smells Terrific. And I took that bottle and I put a sticker on the front that said, Gee, your hair smells terrible. And I proceeded to give a funny speech. There I am in 5th grade. What are you, 10, 11 years old in 5th grade? And I remember my classmates laughing, and that made me feel so good. But there were sparks of, again, what I was excited about and wanted to do. And you may be doing the same thing, but I squashed it down, right? Oh, this won't make money. This isn't responsible. This isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. And yet you can probably think of hundreds upon hundreds of people in this world, past and present, who have made a great living, doing humor as writing. There's so many possibilities to look at. So like I said, I went to college and I'm going for a business administration type degree. This was a wake-up call, but I got a D. Yeah, I got a D in business math. I had to withdraw from accounting. I was so bad at it, and I hated it so much. I hated all my business classes. I wasn't good at it. didn't like it. And like I said, in hindsight, I went to college because my brother and father did, because that was kind of along the same lines of things they were doing, business administration, things like that. I had, just like I was wearing an army uniform, I had no business going to school for business. So I got through all that. Halfway through college, I was, I was kind of flunking out. And long story short, I switched majors. I got into political science and for some reason really enjoyed that. So anyway, it was a happy ending all around. But even afterwards, I was just floating around from different jobs and doing this and that and the other thing and administrative work and everything. But it gets back down to a fear, and I've been running away from it, and maybe you have too. But running away from who you truly are, and what God put you on this earth to do. It is so much easier to just follow and do what everyone is doing, which explains, why our world is the way it is today. People just they follow each other, and they don't even think twice about it because it's so much easier. So it's about finding the courage to be who you are. I think that's really a big part of it. And here's a big one. Here's an eye opener. It's being humble. It's being humble enough to go to God and say, Lord, I don't know how to do this. I don't have the strength to do this. I don't know how to do this. I don't understand, but I know if I put myself in your hands, you're going to help me out with this. And honest to goodness, one of my biggest things I've faced my entire life is fear, right? You're reading the Bible over and over. Jesus says, don't fear, don't fear, don't fear, don't fear. Why did you fear? Oh, ye of little faith, right? And we spend so much of our lives just being afraid of, moving forward, trying things, doing things, going places. And I think it's only the devil himself who, in many cases, puts that fear on you because he doesn't want you to be what God created you to be. He doesn't want you to, be an example of God's love. He doesn't want you to break out and actually do the things that God created you to do. So think about that. Satan is out there. He sees your potential. Let's put it that way. He sees your potential and it scares him. It scares him because it makes his job that much harder and in many cases may even defeat him. So anyway, that's food for thought. So what I want to encourage you to do, and again, I'm not saying this is easy because it probably won't be, but if you're struggling with either discouragement or depression or sadness and you're in a rut, if you're in a job or a career that you hate, if you're doing what you think other people expect you to do, and the stories are legion. How many times have you heard about the person who, their parents wanted them to be a doctor or a dentist or a lawyer, and they are beyond miserable. And, instead of being a lawyer, this other person becomes a animal rescue shelter worker, or they become an artist and they go off somewhere and do that kind of stuff. It's not easy. It's tough, right? Because you have to push against usually other people. And what you're pushing back against is their fears of seeing you succeed, of seeing you be happy, of seeing you blow away their expectations. And I know that part of and for lack of the word, the disease we have is, people pleasing, and we don't want people upset with us. We don't want people to be mad at us. We don't want people to make fun of us. And, but it's on them. That is their shortcoming, if you will. That is their fear. Those are the crabs in the bucket who are trying to pull you back down, who don't want you to get out. So I encourage you to pray a lot about it and figure out what it is that God put you here to do. I mean, Scripture talks about, not putting your light under a bushel basket, right? It's letting the whole world see your light. So figure out what the light is. Take some time. It may not be today. Probably won't be today. It could take time. It could take effort. But I'll tell you what, it beats the heck out of being miserable for most, if not all your life. It beats the heck out of being around these different people, just this defeated person. It's almost like when you're around them, you can almost hear the "I told you so" kind of talk, right? Oh, I knew you'd never amount to anything. Oh, I knew you couldn't do this or that. And a lot of times that stuff's just in your head anyway. But you may be part of a family or part of other people and friends who literally just put you down. So I'm going to encourage you today to, one, pray about what it is that God wants you to do and how he can use you. And then as you go along on this journey, work on, just humility that says, I can't do this. I need your help, God. You've got to help me through this. And to have that confidence that God will do that, and to just let go. And again, I still struggle with that all the time, right? It's like jumping off a cliff and expecting the hand of God to come down and catch you. Or as I read somewhere else, it's like, you'll never know if your parachute will, come out of the pack and let you gently down to earth unless you jump. And I think for a lot of us, we're afraid to jump. We're afraid to take that initial leap. And I don't have a quick and easy answer for you other than to work at it, to keep doing it, keep exploring, keep trying. But like I said, you have one life to live. And it would be such a shame if you hid your talents, your skills, and your abilities because of fear and because you're trying too hard to please other people, to make other people happy. At the end of the day, they don't think about you. I hate to tell that to you. We wake up thinking, oh, so-and-so is thinking this way or that way. They don't. Maybe for the split second that they're dealing with you, but they've got their own problems to deal with. They have their own fears and worries, right? Like, who's thinking about them? So everyone's worried about what everyone thinks about them. And at the end of the day, no one really cares. So I just want to encourage you. I guess that's all I'm saying. I don't have an easy answer for you. It's not going to happen overnight, more than likely. And if you're getting older, if you've been dealing with this your whole life, it's going to take work. It gets down to loving yourself, and I can't wait to do a whole video on that one. It's loving yourself. It's respecting yourself. It's knowing that God created you unique. And like I said at the beginning, as out of all eternity, you're here in this time in history, right? Even Jesus the Christ came into this world at a point in history. You're here at a point in history. What are you going to do with it? So with that, I want to encourage you, and I'm rooting for you 150 million%. And I'm working on my own stuff and working on things that I want to do, a lot of creative endeavors I want to try and do. And like I said, it's worth the time. It's worth the effort. Be the crab that gets out of the bucket. All right? God bless. Good luck.